21st, it's 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is receive comments from the public. Is there anyone that would like to step forward and address the board? Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on. Number 4, discussion and possible action to approve claims dated May 21, 2018 in the amount of $442,011.21.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff. Second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, items with Mike Nolan, Horizon Architecture. Mike, how are you this morning?
Well, how are you?
Good.
So I had Sherry load up the agenda this morning, hopefully knock out several things. The first thing is
I can go ahead and read that if you wish.
Yes, please.
First is discussion and possible action to accept a design services proposal for a lump sum fee of $7,500 plus reimbursable expenses for a Muscatine County Administration Building elevator replacement project.
So Sherry and Oscar approached me and has expressed that the original elevator that was installed with this building is basically having routine issues, so having to be reset several times a week. It's particularly concerned with the voting season coming up. They have to have access to get to the auditors. That they've called in the maintenance folks who normally look at the elevator, and essentially the opinion at this point is that it's more or less an obsolete and probably an undersized system for the building. So the initial walkthrough with the elevator folks by replacing said we could probably do this, but we need to look at the building and the facilities. So what we want to do is, the idea is to take a look at the overall, the size, the width of the shaft, the depth underneath, and then the roof up above. Take a look at the overall structure to try and put in a 2,100 to 2,500 pound pull-less hydraulic elevator, which would be the right system for this building. In order to do that, we'll have to coordinate, get in, do survey information. When having the drawings, we think that the width and the depth of the shaft is okay. We just need to understand what's going on for the depth of the pit to facilitate the system. And then, if possible, we'll have to put some additional space overhead to put in what they call a hoist beam, which is a beam that they use in the erection of the elevator. But that, for long term, it sounds like they're having continuing issues and problems with it. So repair or upgrade of that system's obsolete, not really the right one. So this is a recommended pathway. So this would involve close coordination with the elevator supplier, which at this point we would most likely go with Cone. It was also the supplier for the elevators and the other facilities, to figure out their system and get the building detailed for any sort of modifications we would need to make beforehand so they could come in and install that elevator.
Mike, give me an idea on potential cost of an elevator that would suit our needs.
My guess, speaking about this, I think we're probably somewhere between building modifications and the elevator, somewhere a total project between $200,000 to $250,000.
See, and I'm wondering, ladies, just how much usage that elevator, do we have facts and numbers on the usage of that to see if it makes sense to put that much money in it?
I don't know that we have any numbers on the usage of that. I can tell you that we are at a point where there's an alarm going off and somebody's getting stuck in there multiple times a day. Because if you pick up the phone in there, it calls to the fire department, and we had the fire department over here so much, they were saying you need to shut that thing down. We put a note in there.
Asked us to take it out of service.
We put a placard in there asking them to call maintenance first. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we're having people stuck in it.
So, Mike, then, is the specific unit that we have, I mean, an acceptable resolution is not to work on that unit, but to replace it with a totally different unit?
That's my understanding, is that the current providers have been in, the current unit is obsolete, so they don't make the parts for it anymore, and it's gone. It's not about as far as you can go. You know, if I could just add one thing, it's part of the required accessible means of egress for the building, and then also there's critical functions that the county's providing on the second floor that you need to provide that for, basically handicap accessible access.
It was an undersized unit when we came into this building, and it's been an issue from the beginning, but it's, and Leslie can attest to the election, she assigns somebody to be here to reset the elevator when people are stuck in it. And for the primary
For the primary election, yeah, we've made arrangements for, because in the past,
I was in a
past,
meeting with the
you
fire
know,
chief last
yeah.
week, and I think he said one day they're here 4 times.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I mean, I don't think.
It's
anybody
been that
knows
way,
far
it's
back.
been that way since the day we moved in, at
Oh,
least
but-
once a week.
I get it.
And then, and it got worse in the last year, you know.
That's my point. I don't think I've heard it
I think
before. We probably should have
I've
asked a long
known
time
since
ago.
I've been on the board that the elevator has been a bit of a problem, but I don't know that we've seen the frequency of the issues that we're seeing now.
It's been in the last year that it got really, really bad, but it has always
It's always
had to be
done it-
reset on a regular basis,
And
you
we're
know.
not trying to research a repair, a fix, can we keep it up, what can we do, you know, to make this work, and in the research we discovered there's really nothing we can do with that unit.
So what are we gonna do to provide services while it's under construction?
Well, they're hoping to do it between elections.
That's the goal, is from a time
I
frame.
can't be not handicap accessible during election time. That's just not allowed by law. I would have to move
Well, that's
for an
what
election.
I'm saying, but you still
But-
provide other services.
Yeah, we still provide other services and,
Voting,
yeah.
so what are we gonna do for services during that time when it's down?
Unfortunately, there's really nothing you can do, we'll just have to make accommodations, probably through having staff.
What we've done, because we've had it out of service
Mhm.
for a number of days, even during elections.
Right,
Even
we-
voting
yeah.
is the auditor's office or the assessor's office.
Comes down.
Come downstairs and deal with whoever needs to do business for that period of time. We're hoping it's not out for a really long period of time. but-
So why don't we take it out of service until the election, and you can open it for the time during the election, that way we don't have.
Well, we're during an election right now.
Right, I understand that, we have early voting going on.
Right,
So what
that's
I'm
why they're
saying
waiting
is,
till after that.
When that is finished, even until up to the start and the completion of new construction, just take it out of service, so we don't have the inconveniences, you know, of being interrupted multiple times a day. And if we have folks that are handicapped, then Kristen or somebody can, make the call to get the right people down here to help them. I mean, I'd rather deal with the secretary than be stuck in an elevator.
What's the lead time on a project like this between the specification, so you're gonna have to draw plans and specifications, we'll have to go out for a bid process on this.
Well, my approach with this would be, since we have the building portion of that, which we would provide the modifications for that, and then there's gonna be the equipment portion of the contracts. We'll have to talk about exactly how that gets broken up, but I would anticipate that from a process standpoint, we need to get the current maintenance folks for the elevator to get in here so we can have access to the shaft to do the survey work, verify what's there, and then as far as the building modifications, that should be a fairly straightforward. We're either going to have to do it or we won't. So getting the details of that put together should be pretty straightforward. Now, the threshold for that amount of work will hopefully be under the amount that we need to go for a full bid process. Potentially, we can take it out to basically pre-selected bidders to get a number on that, get that work done, and then the critical point will probably be the lead time for the elevator equipment, which I haven't talked to the vendors yet to see, but the goal will be to have this done in time for early voting for the November elections.
And do we have the ability to select an elevator vendor, or does that have to be competitively bid?
Right now, we're in a contract with a particular elevator vendor for preventive maintenance and repairs. So, I would think since they handle all of our elevators, we could certainly go without one vendor, but, I guess we'll have to see, we're checking prices. Michael and I have discussed this, and we think it's pretty much the same no matter which company we go with, so then it depends on who you want to stay with our current vendor. And honestly, they've made it a diligent effort. Usually they get here quick when we've got an issue that we can't restart. Most of the time we can reset it. The auditor staff know how to reset it. Kristen knows how to reset it, because it happens so frequently, but once in a while we have a situation where we can't. And they provided good service, tried to remedy the situation, but basically It was a residential, like handicap lift that was put in, it's going out. The company, I don't believe they exist anymore, do they, those new diaphragm? I know we can't get replacement parts for it. So,
Okay.
that's when we talk to Michael about, can you look at it and see what we can do? Can, you know, can the hydraulic center do something?
So this, what we're looking at today is just approving the Mike's fees to put together a project and prepare bid documents, so if we decide to move forward, that would be our option. So I'll move to approve.
I have one question here before and this might be a little off the cuff, but, is the, utilizing the existing shaft and so on, is that the best avenue? I mean, you see buildings that have, outside elevators that are added on, what have you, and that's a thought that goes through my head, is this the best solution?
Sherry and I took a walk through the building to see if there'd be another possible location. I think there's a lot of possibilities, but without doing kind of a radical shift of where everything gets located in the building. The shaftway itself was added on, I think, when the building was, at some point when the building was modified. So that egress stair and that elevator shaft was added. Now, while they didn't put the right equipment in there, the one thing they did do was that the width and the depth of it is set big enough to accommodate this unit. So again, not having been able to get in and see what's underneath, that's the best approach, in my opinion. We're just going to take a minimal modification and probably going to be the least impact to get this done in the time frame we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I always try to look at everything from
Absolutely
different angles to see if that's the best thought process. Okay. With that, I've got a motion from Jeff
I'll second.
and a second from Matt. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, Mike, is discussion and possible action to accept the design services proposal in the amount of $1,600 for structural engineering services in conjunction with the Muscatine County third floor courtroom renovation project.
Okay, so this is basically an additional services request for the design for the courtroom. This is come about as we're doing the renovation of the courtroom, and in conjunction with that, under a separate contract, AJ Associates is revising the mechanical systems to provide more air conditioning for the courtroom. They have recommended that their best approach is they want to put a unit above the courtroom ceiling, and if you haven't been up above that courtroom ceiling, it's a cast concrete ceiling with a coffer and beam set up. What I want to do is put the diffusers through the slab, so it's going to cut from above, and then place the diffusers for the air conditioning to blow the air from the ceiling down, which is, we've talked about different approaches. One recommendation they're asking to look at was potentially putting those in the new sidewalls and the partition, so we wouldn't have to go through that ceiling. AJ is expressed that the best approach to really address the cooling issues in that courtroom is to go from above. So my concern is, I think that's a feasible approach and solution. I consulted with our engineer just to ask him his opinion on that, and he said, we can do that. He wants to take a look at that to make sure that we are locating those penetrations in the right spot. The concern would be if we were to cut through any reinforcing or go through something that's holding that ceiling up in place, we obviously don't want that to come down. So this is just to coordinate with what AJ Associates wants to do for the placement of their diffusers and equipment to get a structural analysis and, if need be, a reinforcing detail to facilitate that work.
Okay. I'll move to approve.
Second. Got a motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That sucker gets hot, whatever you can do.
Next is discussion and possible action to approve change order number 1 for the Muscatine County former Sheriff's Office / Jail Rehabilitation Project, Phase 1, in the amount of $1,720 for unit price adjustments.
Okay, so the jail stabilization project is complete at this point. We did our final walkthrough last week. Myers Construction did a fantastic job. They were efficient. They were on time. They were very professional. Nothing but highest marks. As part of the original contract in the bid, there were 2 places where we had the patching of the concrete beams and then also the patching of the wall. That we took our best guess of what we thought would be the square footage, and that was included in the contract. We had also asked them to do, and this is fairly typical when there's things that could move a little bit, there could be a little more, a little bit less, is to provide unit pricing, essentially a linear foot and a square foot. So when they went through and did the actual work, they kept track of the actual material they used, and this is their unit pricing. Basically coming back as an adjustment to the original contract. It was included in the contract, but typically you include that as a change order provision because the cost would be above and beyond. So when they submitted their bid, they said, we will do this. We have 8 linear feet of this particular patch material. If we need to do more, it's whatever their linear foot, I guess, maybe $30 a linear foot for that. So they kept track of the original 8, subtracted that out, and this is the difference from what we anticipated they would need between what was actually needed.
I hope we're done spending money on that thing.
If you hadn't a chance to go look through, the quarters themselves are clean and prepped and ready for whatever or comes or does not come. In the basement, they actually went above and beyond. We had a certain area we thought was just going to be rubble and clean out some of the debris. They took out probably, I would say, a half a yard of brick, rubble, and debris, and then above and beyond what we had put in, they put in concrete floor in there, so that entire basement is cleaned up. It's in really nice shape. So.
Good. I'll move to approve.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is action to accept completion of the Muscatine County former Sheriff's Office / Jail Rehabilitation Project, Phase 1, and to approve payment of the total project cost, including retainage, of $80,190.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff. Did I have that right? Did you?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Motion by Jeff,
Second.
second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Mike?
The one thing I would like to ask for the facilities master plan, we talked about having an initial meeting to discuss first findings and maybe to discuss a little bit of future strategic planning. I wanted to see if we could today see if it's possible to get together on June 18th, 19th, or 20th with this group, if that's something we can do. If you want to do that here, otherwise we can talk offline. I'd like to get a meeting scheduled to do that.
18th is bad. 19th or 20th works for me.
I can make any of those ones.
How about if I check all your schedules and then I'll coordinate with them?
That'd be great.
I'm good there too. Okay. Okay, we'll check on that, and Nancy will coordinate that.
And in the last project, the community services, we're just waiting carpet material to get the front entry completed. Otherwise, that project is substantially complete and should hopefully be wrapped up here within the next week.
Very good.
All right.
Very good. All right, thank you so much, Mike.
Appreciate your time. We'll get busy on that elevator.
You bet. Okay. Number 6, items of planning and zoning administrator, Eric Furnace. Morning, Eric.
Morning. Did you want to read item A, Scott, or do you want me to?
Yes, review and public action to approve a variance granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment on May 11th, 2018.
Okay. There was one variance granted and one variance was not granted by the Board of Adjustment. The one that was granted was an application from Nathan Markson and Colby Weiss, located in Montpelier Township. This is on 181st Street, just north of Wildcat Den, just north of the main entrance there where it comes to a T intersection. Basically, they requested a variance to be allowed to place a 30 by 64 detached pole structure in front of the dwelling, but it would still be 50 feet back from the property line. The property was considered and hardships were found with significant slope and limitations, and so they did grant a variance that allowed them to put a pole building in front of closer to the road than the actual existing dwelling. So there were significant trees that block sight of that you won't even see this structure essentially from the county road, except maybe in the winter time. And then there's a lot of slope that limited the other available space. So then one variance was also not granted. It was for a very significant setback request. An owner was requesting a setback of 10 feet as opposed to 80 feet on a commercial building outside of Durant. Wanted to put up another rental storage unit and requested a rather large variance, and the Board of Adjustment felt that the this property was what it was when the owner purchased it and rezoned it for this purpose, knew what he was dealing with, and that variance was just too significant. Would potentially create a very expensive property for the county to purchase. I believe 927 is now a county road, or that portion isn't it? Did we get that? Anyway, if it's that close to right of way, somebody ends up buying expensive commercial property when we grant variances like that. So the board did not grant that variance. No action required from you on that one. Just wanted to advise you.
To approve this one.
Motion by Bob, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. B is review of a special use permit granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment on May 11th, 2018.
One special use permit for a rural residence was granted to Randy and Janelle Spees. This special use permit was granted in order for the Speeses to convert the old Bloomington Grange Hall at North Tipton Road in Bayfield into a rural residence. They have a purchase agreement or have already purchased the property, and they applied to do that, and that was granted. So.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
We don't need one.
Yeah, it's really not, you don't have to take action, just review.
Got it.
So,
Anything else, Eric?
no, I believe that's all I have.
Okay, very good, thank you. Items with County Engineer Keith White. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
First up is discussion and possible action to set a letting date for a bridge replacement on Iron City Avenue south of 170th Street, project number L-CUL 18-73-70. Consider 9 a.m. on June 11th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B, projects update.
We'll note I have a title sheet for that project to collect signatures on. Projects, said most everything we've had out there is complete at the moment. We're going out for some pavement marking bids. We are looking at seal coat and maintenance, hot mix asphalt. We are going to have to center that around Ragbri. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So just be aware. I mean, we can't have some of this, if we let it now and don't control when that contractor works, some of the work is on the Ragbri route, so we're probably gonna delay that, or we don't quite have our answers to that yet of how we're gonna address that.
Ragbright's staying pretty much on 6, isn't it?
Ragbri, it's probably more on us than on anybody. Coming across F-62, coming across 6, go on the Steel Mill Road, that's one of our problems. Coming down Taylor, over F-70, crossing, coming down Sweeten to New Era to Wildcat Dam, coming to back up Zachary, in for the rest. So. Just noting too, on our hot mix asphalt, the Highway 22 project of the DOT's is underway. Iowa is the prime contractor, and that's who gets 99% of our hot mix work too. So again, we're gonna have to do a few creative things with schedules, because we can't have them deciding to come work for us in November. The other thing I wanted to mention, not directly projects, but what we're seeing on equipment deliveries, even our trucks that we ordered, we have them in for delivery dates, but the like the Max that we got, they just got some more, because like Freightliner, they've pushed their build dates out to February of next year. So just letting you realize, we're probably going to come back to you in a week or two with, well, I guess it won't be next week, so in a couple weeks, with some other things. We got to get our lead times way out there, or we're not going to get things. So that's just kind of informational too.
Doesn't surprise me a bit.
So, I don't know, somebody said the other day, I don't know if Jeff said it, or who said it, but that the truck volume on 80 kind of indicates the economy, and I think the ability to get things kind of indicates when you can't get trucks because they can't build them fast enough, that kind of indicates something too, I think. So, that's all I had.
What day is it?
Everybody thinks it ain't busy, ain't been down the road.
July 27 or 8?
8. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday, and the DOT has, there's not supposed to be any work going on 22 on that date, which would really put a wrench in the works. I mean, there might be their one lane stuff in effect, but the road should be open. So getting across Highway 61 will be the interesting one at an uncontrolled intersection. That's all I have.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Keith. Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the May 14, 2018 regular meeting.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence, Bob, do you have any correspondence? Nathan?
I had one contact from an individual talking about HOA issues. We discussed there and get back to them.
Okay. I had nothing. Jeff?
Nothing.
Matt?
Nothing.
No? Okay, let's look at committee reports then. Matt, you have anything?
Nothing.
No? Jeff?
Well, kind of a committee, I think a number of us attended the Wilton Chamber annual meeting on the 14th. And then on the 16th, I participated with the Muscatine group. We began the interview process for a new director.
Okay. Again, I was attended on Monday the 14th, the Wilton Chamber event. Wednesday the 16th, Riverbend Transit meeting, and they received about half of their new buses in, and their old buses that they're replacing. They've got those pretty well. I believe they've got them all sold. So they got a rotation of equipment. They're in the same boat, just like Keith talked about with getting trucks and that. The lead time gets longer and longer, and I'm getting buses as well. Also on Wednesday the 16th was the Board of Health. Thursday the 17th was Fair Board, and I want to remind everyone that they're working really hard getting ready for the weekend of the fair, which is June 2nd, and this is their fundraising event for the fair, and with their auction and so on. And of course, this year they've brought a new flair to it in the sense that they've got some entertainment with Adam Cunningham coming in with a concert on that evening as well. So ticket sales have been pretty steady, it sounds like, from what the report was to me. And in all these situations, you just hope we have some good weather and get people to come out and enjoy that and listen to an entertainer that's got some local flair, and they've got they serve a nice ribeye dinner, ribeye sandwich dinner, and so come out and spend some dollars at the auction and support the fair. That's all I had. Let's see, so Nathan, you have anything?
I was also at the Wilton Chamber of Commerce, had a nice forum there with Senator Bob Gorski and Bobby Kaufman. On Friday the 18th, I had decategorization board meeting. We approved budgets for Muscatine and Cedar County for the coming year, and we also reviewed the bylaws, only to discover that we can't find the bylaws. And the reason that was prompted is because I made a suggestion that because of the amount of work that they're involved with the school district, that someone from the school district in the administration should maybe be represented on the board. This is apparently done in other locations as well. Lots of other DCAT boards have that, so looks like we have to revise the bylaws in order to do that, but I think we're going to end up drafting new ones, so that's that.
Okay, Bob?
Other than the bank luncheon, I had the Veterans Affairs on Tuesday. Nothing significant there.
Okay. Next is receive information from county employees. Do we have anything to come forward with? Items with the administration office. Nancy, do you have anything for us?
I actually do not have anything.
Okay. If there's nothing else to come.
I would like to address the board, please. Earlier in our meeting today, there was all the discussions with the elevator and the other things with change orders and such. I would just ask this board to think a little bit about, we have in-depth meetings coming up in the near future. We'll be talking about all these potentials that we want to try to deal with while we're here functional. And as Matt, sometimes you've heard me before, I get a little upset sometimes with putting money into old buildings. So what I would ask everybody just to think about, I'm not promoting anything, but possibly we ought to consider a building, a county building, new, that's structured as such that we can house different agencies or departments of the county. We do have some ground available, you all know that, makes some sense next to the parking. All I'm asking is just thought, and maybe we'll come up with a different idea, but sometime we might want to think about. Nathan asked me, he says, well, how old is this building? Well, I can tell you this, my mother sewed overalls upstairs. And downstairs they used to sell grain for the farm animals, but the ones that were working. My point is, yeah, we had motors when this thing was built, but it's old. And every time we turn around, since we've come in here, there's been changes, there's been repairs, it's 100,000 here, 300,000 here. It's nuts, guys. 100,000 over there for windows, it just goes on and on and on. There might be a better answer. And I just want everybody to think about it, because every time we approve something where you dump $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 in it, you're locking yourselves into a position where it doesn't make sense to start looking at a new building because you've invested so much in these old buildings. If it was a historical building, that's different. You know, I realize the community gets involved in that. They don't want to lose their historical buildings. There's not a whole hell of a lot historical about this. It's been a functional building for probably well over 100 years. And it's just like, sometimes you just got to move forward. You know, I like the old, but it doesn't always serve us well, nor does it serve the community well. Just a thought.
Dump enough money in it and limp it along long enough, it'll be a historical building someday.
Possibly.
I think
Historical or hysterical?
Oh, it is older than me, that's
Right.
right.
Well, and maybe we can get at our, whatever date we get that meeting scheduled, we can get information on like the upkeep costs and, 5 and 10 year estimation.
And Mike is supposed to be putting that all together.
Great.
That was part of, we signed an agreement with him for him to do a facilities plan. Now, how far in that process he's gonna be on the 18th, I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of different departments. I made some notes for myself. I mean, you know, there's over a half dozen that we wanna move or wanna get rid of the ground that they're on and consolidate and do all these things. Maybe it's time to start thinking about that seriously.
A survey of county needs, like if we had one building, what that would look like. I mean, obviously, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it may not work, but.
Right, you probably wouldn't want trucks coming out of the, you wouldn't want
Right.
snow plows where you have.
Right.
the
Yeah, we've
office
talked
office,
about
but-
the rescue units being closer to the river, and we've talked about all kinds of things. And maybe one building's not enough, maybe two. I'm just saying, let's start talking about it. I think it's a serious issue.
Maybe one floor.
Maybe not. You know, there's some limitations over here too, because you're not gonna have the basement, where you got all your, I'm talking about the piece over there where you have your geothermal underneath. But that, we've already asked that question of Vic, and you could put a double story up there. It wouldn't be hard to do. It'll take it, you know, so.
And so, I had planned to put it on an agenda item soon to kind of, for us to talk about the list that I have and what you guys might wanna add to it. It may make sense for me to for us to just have that conversation in conjunction with.
Yeah, and the other part of this
The
equation
meeting with
too
Mike.
is the fact, and we discussed this on many times here in the previous 4 to 7 years that I've been on here about managing the money, and we still have comparatively low interest rates. That's not gonna last. That's not gonna last. So if we do a big project, or we need to finance it again, let's get it while the cash is cheap, because it's not gonna be there much longer.
Well, Nancy, could you circulate whatever kind of preliminary list you have?
Yep.
That way we can comment on it and get as much information for that meeting ahead of time,
Absolutely.
rather than me to have another
Yeah,
meeting.
because Sherry and I try to, as things come up and you guys talk about stuff, we try to capture all of that in the list. Now, I'm sure there's things that have slipped by that we haven't caught, so, we're wanting all of you guys to review it and throw on anything you have to add on to that list, because it's your list, it's your priority, so.
I'm just curious, how many years has this been the administration?
Administration?
Yeah.
11,
10 years?
11.
over 11.
11.
It was March of what, 2007? That we moved in, I think.
I believe so.
Okay, very good. Anything else? If there's nothing else to come before the board, meeting adjourned.